When an avoidant is operating from lust, their behavior is predictable, simple, and emotionally effortless. They approach with confidence, not caution. They flirt without hesitation. They enjoy the connection without overthinking the consequences. Lust is safe for them because it asks nothing of their heart. It doesn't demand vulnerability. It doesn't trigger childhood wounds. It doesn't threaten their sense of independence. Lust is physical, not emotional, and that gives them a feeling of control. They can enjoy you without fearing you. They can desire you without needing you. They can connect with your body without ever letting you touch their deepest self. Lust never challenges their defenses. Lust never shakes their identity. Lust never forces them to confront their fears. It's easy, familiar, comfortable territory. But love changes everything. When an avoidant begins to feel, their behavioral blueprint shifts in ways even they don't understand. They stop being smooth. They stop being predictable. They stop being emotionally detached. Suddenly, the person who seems so self-assured becomes hesitant. The one who once acted so casual becomes careful. The person who once flirted fearlessly now finds themselves pausing before they speak, rereading messages, second-guessing their tone. Love does something to an avoidant that lust never will. It awakens their deepest fears. All the emotional walls they built to protect themselves begin shaking. Their instincts conflict with their desires. Their heart pulls them in, while their fear pushes them out. You can always tell when an avoidant has crossed from lust into love, because their behavior starts contradicting itself. The same person who acted uninterested suddenly starts paying attention to your emotions. The person who once kept conversations shallow now listens more deeply. The one who used to keep distance begins noticing your absence in a way they never did before. Lust keeps them relaxed. Love makes them alert. Lust keeps them free. Love makes them afraid of losing you. An avoidant in lust doesn't worry about your feelings. An avoidant in love becomes hyper-aware of them. They start noticing your tone. They remember little details. They watch your reactions without telling you. They hide their tenderness behind sarcasm, distance, or silence. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much to handle it. They want you, but they're terrified of needing you. Lust feels safe because it never crosses that line. Love feels dangerous because it threatens the one thing they value most: emotional control. When it's lust, they pull away without guilt. When it's love, they pull away with guilt they don't show. When it's lust, they return only when they want the thrill. When it's love, they return because they miss your presence. When it's lust, their mind stays quiet. When it's love, their mind won't stop racing. Love forces an avoidant to confront every inner wound they've spent years avoiding. They feel exposed, vulnerable, overwhelmed. Their heart whispers, stay, while their fear screams, run. That internal collision is the clearest sign that it's more than desire. The moment they start acting inconsistent, nervous, conflicted, that's not confusion, that's love. An avoidant in lust can walk away cleanly. An avoidant in love leaves pieces of themselves behind. Lust is comfortable for them. Love is terrifying. But the terror is not proof that the love is wrong. It's proof that the love is real. When an avoidant is only experiencing lust, their communication is smooth, casual, and effortless. They reach out when they want something. They have no emotional stakes, so they don't overthink. Lust doesn't activate their fears, so they move with confidence. Quick replies when they're interested, slow replies when they're not, simple rhythms that don't require vulnerability. But once an avoidant starts falling in love, everything changes. The shift is subtle, but it's powerful. And if you pay attention, you will see it clearly. Their confidence disappears, their certainty fades, and suddenly even sending a simple message feels like a risk to them. The avoidant, the one who's supposed to be emotionally detached, becomes anxious in a way they'll never admit. They start thinking about you more often. They start caring how you'll interpret their words. They start worrying that they might say something wrong. They rewrite messages. They type and delete. They stare at your name on their screen longer than they should. They hesitate, not because they don't want to talk to you, but because they want the connection to land the right way. Love introduces emotional stakes, and when something matters to them, they become cautious. This is foreign territory for them. They're used to being in control. They're used to feeling emotionally invincible. Lust never challenged that. Lust never made them second-guess their moves. But love makes them vulnerable. Love makes them uncertain. Love makes every interaction feel heavier. They start asking themselves questions they've never asked before. Should I say this? Is it too much? Will they think I'm needy? What if I sound stupid? What if I scare them away? These thoughts don't exist in the mind of an avoidant in lust. They only appear when their heart is involved. Their messages become slower, not out of disinterest, but out of fear. They don't want to expose their feelings too quickly. They don't want to lose their emotional balance. They don't want to risk being rejected. Avoidants fear vulnerability because it reminds them of moments in their past when closeness led to pain. So when they're in love, they handle communication like they're diffusing a bomb. Carefully, cautiously, quietly. They also become inconsistent in their messaging patterns. When it's lust, they're predictable. When it's love, they oscillate. Warm one moment, distant the next. They pull back not because they lost interest, but because the feelings got too intense. They return because the pull toward you is stronger than their fear. This push-pull dynamic is not a game. It's their emotional system malfunctioning under the weight of feelings they don't know how to manage. You might notice them checking your messages without replying. You might notice them responding weirdly fast one day, then slowly the next. You might notice their tone becoming more thoughtful, softer, more attentive. You might notice pauses where they're clearly overthinking. You might notice them reaching out for reasons that don't make sense. Just checking, just asking, just saw this. These are not random behaviors. These are signs of emotional investment. The avoidant who once acted confident now acts uncertain because they care. The avoidant who once pursued with ease now hesitates because the connection means something. The avoidant who once treated communication like a tool now treats it like a risk. They don't want to mess up. They don't want to say too much. They don't want to reveal how deeply they're beginning to feel. Not yet, not until they're sure you won't hurt them. This subtle shift from confident pursuit to nervous overthinking is one of the clearest signs that it's no longer just lust. Lust is impulsive. Love is deliberate. Lust is careless. Love is cautious. Lust is loud. Love is hesitant. And when an avoidant starts thinking before texting, worrying after texting, and hesitating during texting, it means their heart is involved, even if their words don't say it yet. When an avoidant feels only lust, distance is effortless for them. It costs them nothing. They can disappear for hours, days, even weeks without feeling any internal consequence. Their mind stays quiet. Their emotions stay numb. Their heart stays untouched. Lust doesn't create attachment. It creates convenience. So when they pull away in a lust-based dynamic, they feel normal, unbothered, even relieved. There is no fear of losing you because losing you doesn't threaten anything inside them. You are an experience, not an emotional investment. That's why they can leave casually, return casually, communicate casually. Lust keeps them emotionally free. But when an avoidant is in love, real love, distance becomes torture. Even if they never show it, their silence becomes a battlefield. Their avoidance becomes a burden. Their retreat becomes a trigger for their own internal chaos. Because once they care, distance no longer feels like independence, it feels like loss. When they pull away from someone they love, it isn't peaceful. It isn't relaxing. It doesn't regulate them the way it does when they're not emotionally attached. Instead, it creates anxiety, overthinking, restlessness, and a deep sense of emotional discomfort they don't know how to explain. This is where the internal war begins. Avoidants are conditioned to believe that closeness is dangerous and distance is safety. This belief comes from years of emotional overwhelm, childhood wounds, or past relationships where vulnerability felt too exposing. So even when they love someone, their default survival instinct is to retreat. But here's the difference: when they retreat from someone they love, their heart doesn't cooperate with their fear anymore. Their feelings follow them. Their longing follows them. Their attachment follows them. Their thoughts follow them. They tell themselves, I need space. But the space makes them miss you. They tell themselves, I'll feel calm once I'm alone. But being alone makes them think of you more. They tell themselves, this distance is good. But their chest tightens the longer you're not around. This is why the avoidant becomes so emotionally inconsistent when they're in love. Their fear tells them to withdraw, but the love they feel pulls them back in. It creates a pressure inside them that lust never creates. The pressure of wanting someone and fearing them at the same time. Lust never challenges their defenses. Love does. Lust never threatens their emotional walls. Love breaks through them. Lust never makes them afraid to lose someone. Love does, intensely. They may physically distance themselves, but emotionally, they're still tied to you. You live in the back of their mind even during their silence. You show up in their thoughts randomly. They notice your absence in ways they can't describe. They feel an emptiness they don't understand. They may distract themselves, stay busy, act cold, pretend nothing is wrong. But none of it actually works. Because when it's love, distance doesn't soothe them. It aggravates them. The avoidant in love becomes restless during distance. Their sleep becomes lighter. Their mind becomes louder. Their emotions start leaking through the cracks of their facade. They may snap at people more. They may feel irritated for no reason. They may isolate even further because they can't process the feeling of missing someone they're afraid to need. This is the painful irony. The avoidant needs distance to feel safe, but love makes that same distance feel unbearable. The push-pull you see on the outside is nothing compared to the emotional push-pull happening inside them. Lust allows them to run. Love forces them to look inward. And the truth is this: an avoidant can walk away from lust without ever turning back. But when they're in love, every step they take away from you hurts them more than they'll ever admit. Distance becomes a prison. Silence becomes fear. Space becomes longing. And their retreat becomes the very thing that makes them realize how deeply they feel. Lust lets them leave. Love won't let them escape. You can always tell when an avoidant is in love, not by what they say, but by the tiny hidden, almost involuntary behaviors they can't mask. Even when they're pulling away. Avoidants are masters at controlling the big things. They control their distance, their silence, their availability, their emotions. But love slips through the cracks in the smallest ways, and those subtle shifts expose feelings they would never admit out loud. When it's lust, they don't notice you deeply. They don't study you. They don't absorb you. They enjoy the moment and move on. But when it's love, they start paying attention in a way they don't even realize they're doing. The first tiny behavior is their watchfulness. Avoidants observe the person they love more carefully than anyone else. They notice your tone. They notice when you're slightly off. They notice when you're quieter than usual. They notice when you're excited, stressed, overwhelmed, or distant. They pretend to be detached, but they're tracking everything. They study your emotional patterns because they care, but also because caring feels dangerous to them. They don't ask, "Are you okay?" But they watch you for signs. This is one of the biggest signs of love. Their eyes stay connected to you even when their body pulls away. Another subtle behavior is how they soften around you. Their voice gets lighter, their eyes gentler, their tone more patient. They may still withdraw, but when they're physically near you, you'll feel the warmth they're trying to hide. They listen more deeply than they did when it was only lust. They remember details you didn't even know you said. Lust doesn't create that level of attunement. Love does. Your words matter to them. Your feelings matter to them. Your reactions affect them. This emotional sensitivity is something they have no control over. It just happens. They also begin unconsciously mirroring your energy. They match your pace, your style of speaking, your emotional vibe. They adapt in small ways they don't even notice, sitting closer than they intend, leaning in when you talk, copying your gestures, adjusting their behavior to avoid upsetting you. Lust doesn't inspire adaptation. Love forces them to adjust even when their fear tells them not to. They care enough to shift themselves. Tiny shifts, but real ones. Another hidden sign is how reactive they become to changes in your attention. If you take a little longer to reply, they feel it. They tell themselves they don't care, but something inside them tightens. If you're distant, they get confused. If you seem close to someone else, they get quietly jealous. Avoidants don't express jealousy loudly. They express it through withdrawal, irritability, or sudden coldness. But the emotion behind it is unmistakable. They're affected because love has entered the picture. Avoidants also start offering micro acts of care without calling them care. They may check if you reached home safely, remember your preferences, fix something for you, give advice, send something thoughtful, or help you in practical ways. With lust, they offer almost nothing outside of physical presence. With love, they start providing support in their own silent, awkward, indirect way. It's not grand gestures. It's the small efforts they make when they think you're not paying attention. They want to show love without risking emotional exposure. There's also the emotional pause they take before they speak to you. When it's lust, their communication is quick. When it's love, they think, even if only for a second, about how their words might affect you. This hesitation is subtle but powerful. It's the moment they consider your feelings, something avoidants rarely do unless they're emotionally invested. You can also see it in their eyes during moments of closeness. They look at you longer than they intend. They look away quickly if you notice. They look back when you aren't looking. Lust looks at your body. Love looks at your soul. The deepest sign hides in their silence itself. When they go quiet around someone they love, the silence has tension, not avoidance. It's a silence loaded with feelings they don't know how to express. It's the heaviness of wanting to be close but not knowing how. Lust doesn't produce that tension. Only love does. All these tiny behaviors are invisible to most people. But if you know avoidance, you know these signs. They cannot love loudly, but they love unmistakably. Their fear controls their actions, but their heart reveals itself through the smallest cracks. Love slips out in their watchfulness. Love shows through their softness. Love hides in their hesitation. Love leaks through their reactions. Love whispers through their micro acts of care. Even when they run, even when they pull away, even when they pretend not to feel, their tiny hidden behaviors expose the truth they are already attached to you in ways they don't yet understand. Inside the mind of an avoidant in love, there is a war so intense, so exhausting, and so emotionally paralyzing that most people never see it. Because avoidants don't show their battles, they hide them. And the deeper they fall for someone, the louder this internal conflict becomes. This is the silent war between desire and fear, between wanting closeness and running from it, between reaching for you and retreating from you. When it's just lust, this war doesn't exist. Their mind stays quiet. Their heart stays numb. Their fear stays asleep. But when love enters the picture, their entire internal world erupts into a fight they were never emotionally equipped to handle. On one side is desire, powerful, magnetic, undeniable. Their heart feels drawn to you in ways they don't understand. Your presence affects them. Your absence disturbs them. Your voice calms them. Your energy soothes them. They feel comfort around you that they've never known before. They've spent their life believing no one can be trusted with their heart, and suddenly you feel like the exception. That terrifies them, but it also pulls them closer. They crave you emotionally even more than physically. They want your attention, your affection, your softness. They want to be near you, to feel connected, to experience the warmth you bring into their world. But right on the other side is fear, loud, relentless, screaming warnings into their mind. Fear tells them that closeness equals danger. Fear tells them that love means losing control. Fear tells them that vulnerability will expose their wounds. Fear tells them that needing someone is weakness. Fear tells them that you will eventually hurt them. Fear tells them that if they let you in fully, they won't survive the pain if anything goes wrong. This fear isn't logical, it's primal. It comes from childhood wounds, emotional abandonment, past betrayals, and years of telling themselves they're safer alone. This creates a psychological tug of war that tears them apart from the inside. Their heart whispers, go to them. Their fear screams, run from them. Their emotions say, this feels right. Their trauma says, this will destroy you. Their soul reaches for you. Their survival instincts pull them back. And because avoidants never learned how to sit with emotional discomfort, this internal war overwhelms them quickly. You see their indecision as inconsistency, but internally they're drowning in a storm of desire they want and fear they don't know how to regulate. They feel exposed around you, and that exposure activates all the defenses they've used their whole life to stay emotionally safe. They start overthinking every interaction. They panic when they feel too close. They withdraw when their desire becomes too strong. They return because the distance hurts more than the closeness. They become confused by their own emotions. One moment they're imagining a future with you, and the next they're convincing themselves they need space. One moment they want to open up, and the next they shut down completely. One moment they crave your presence, and the next they avoid your messages. This is not because they don't care. It's because they care so much that their fear doesn't know how to handle it. They wonder if they're enough for you. They worry about disappointing you. They fear needing you the way they secretly do. They fear losing you because they've never recovered from loss before. You awaken emotions they've suppressed for years, and now those emotions are fighting their defenses from the inside. They want to say they miss you, but fear stops them. They want to show affection, but fear freezes them. They want to move closer, but fear drags them backward. They don't understand why their body reacts one way and their heart reacts another. All they know is that the deeper they feel, the harder it becomes to pretend they don't. This internal war is the clearest sign an avoidant is in love. Lust never produces this conflict, only real emotional attachment does. Lust is easy, love is chaos. Lust is smooth, love is destabilizing. Lust keeps their heart asleep. Love wakes everything up, including every fear they've buried. And so the avoidant isn't fighting you. They're fighting their upbringing. They're fighting their wounds. They're fighting their instincts. They're fighting the part of themselves that's terrified of being known and still chosen. The truth is, when an avoidant is in love, they're always in a war. Not between you and them, but between their fear and their desire to let you in. When an avoidant is only experiencing lust, they can walk away without looking back. They can detach cleanly. They can move on quickly. Lust doesn't bind them emotionally. It doesn't create roots. It doesn't challenge their defenses. Lust is physical, love is psychological. That's why avoidants can leave a lust-based connection with ease. The moment the excitement fades, they feel nothing pulling them inward. They don't experience withdrawal, regret attachment, or longing. They simply drift away, believing the chapter is over. That's the version of them most people see, and it's the version that leads many to believe avoidants don't feel anything deeply. But when an avoidant is in love, it's a completely different story, one they hide from the entire world, including themselves. They may walk away physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually they do not escape. The connection stays inside them, the feelings stay alive, the longing stays active, the memories stay vivid, the attachment stays rooted. Even when they pull back to protect themselves, they feel the loss in a way they have no words for. Love for an avoidant is not clean, not simple, not forgettable. It's a haunting, one they carry in silence. Avoidants have two emotional settings: numb and overwhelmed. Lust keeps them numb. Love overwhelms them. Lust allows them to keep control. Love destroys their sense of control. Lust makes them comfortable. Love makes them terrified. So when they fall in love and they feel themselves losing emotional stability, their instinct is to retreat. But the retreat is painful, not freeing. They think distance will bring them relief, peace, clarity. But instead, it creates restlessness, longing, anxiety, and emotional chaos. Their mind keeps circling back to you even when they're trying to forget. Their heart keeps responding to you even in the silence. Their body reacts to your absence in ways they don't understand. That's the truth they'll never say. They can escape lust, but they cannot escape love. Walking away from someone they lusted after feels like closing a book. Walking away from someone they loved feels like leaving oxygen. The avoidant feels the difference in the quiet moments. When distractions fade, when the world goes still, when their mind has nothing left to focus on but the achy inside them. They replay conversations, they remember your softness, they miss your emotional presence, they regret the moments they shut down. They feel the emptiness your absence creates. They wonder what you're doing. They check your status without meaning to. They scroll through old messages. They feel jealous at the thought of you moving on. This is the emotional residue that love leaves behind, something lust never produces. The deepest proof that they can't escape love is this: even when they try to bury their feelings, they leak through in the smallest, most involuntary ways. They think about reaching out even if they don't. They draft messages they never send. They stay connected to you mentally even when they distance themselves physically. They compare everyone else to you, even if they deny it. They feel drawn back to you, even when their fear insists they shouldn't be. Their escape is never real. It's emotional avoidance dressed as indifference, and the collapse comes when they realize the feelings they tried to avoid aren't going anywhere. Avoidants fall for very few people in their lifetime, so when they do, the imprint is permanent. They may suppress it, but they don't erase it. They may run, but they don't forget. They may distance themselves, but they don't detach. They may pretend not to care, but their heart betrays them every time they feel that tug toward you. Lust is something they walk away from easily. Love is something they carry for years. Lust ends clean. Love lingers like a shadow behind everything they do. Lust fades quickly. Love becomes part of their emotional DNA. The difference is simple: they leave lust behind. They take love with them. No matter how far they run, no matter how silent they become, no matter how well they pretend they've moved on,